Welcome back, everyone. I'm here for our weekly show with Andrea Wadey. I'm Callie King. And today we have another question for you for what we're going to be discussing. Have you ever seen horses taking care of one another? This is something that a lot of times people talk about as a difference between animals and people, as they say, humans, we're really just, another species of animal. But they say that humans, we have altruism, that we will help each other, that we will sacrifice sometimes our own needs for the needs of the others. And they say that animals don't really do this. Animals are about survival and survival of them and maybe their offspring, but it doesn't usually go much farther. But we've got some stories, and Andrea has a really interesting observation just from this week that we want to share with you today.
Guys, yeah, it's an interesting topic, isn't it? I've heard some trainers go, absolutely not. Horses do not display altruism. I'm like, really? I don't know. Like, I know that they can have empathy. There are many examples where horses are completely for themselves. You know, if you get a sick horse in a herd, they'll quite often the herd will turn on that horse, where that instinct of not drawing in a predator. But what I saw today amongst my own horses really surprised me. So, as you all know, I'm a big advocate for friends, forage and freedom. So I get to watch the horses a lot moving around in the most natural setting that I can give them. And I see them mutually groom each other a lot. It's a really important part of their day. It's bonding. It's great. But what I saw today really blew me away. So we have one horse called Blue, and he has a lot of feather on his leg. He's a cob, and he gets really itchy. We keep it clean. It's not anything bad. It's just the way he is. He's quite a sweaty, itchy horse. So he's always finding places to like rub his lower legs. And today I saw Branna, my mare, and him start to mutually groom. And she went straight down his leg to the back of his knee, where he has a natural overgrowth of keratin on the back of his knees. He came with it. It's like a Malanders and Salanders, we call it in this country. And she started itching all around his lower leg and his feathers. And I don't think I've ever seen another horse mutually groom a horse's lower leg. And he's been so itchy the last few days, to the point where we're actually planning tomorrow to clip off his feathers. And that always helps him. But to watch her go and do that, I thought, she knows that he needs that, and she is choosing to do something to help him. And I'm like, well, that's altruism. Okay, would she do it if a mountain lion ran out of the hedge? Would she try and protect him? Or probably not. She'd be long gone. But I think they display moments of it. And she knew exactly what he wanted. She went and helped him, and she stayed there until he said, okay, I'm good. So that was interesting in itself. But then 2 hours later, I saw the Arabian horse in our herd, who is rubbish at mutual grooming. He gets told off all the time because he bites too hard. He tries, but he's just not very good at it. He went to Blue's legs and started itching and biting at Blue's legs. Now, he did it too hard and a few back legs got waved around. But the point was, he also tried to help Blue. It stunned me. I was watching them. I'm like, I have never, in all of my years, 51 years with horses, I've never seen them do that. So if anyone else has seen it, I would love to hear from it down below about horses grooming others' legs. But yeah, very interesting.
And I'm curious, when you were watching, did you notice any kind of communication between them? Like, was Blue scratching his legs and then the other horses moved down there, or they just came in and went right to the lower leg to groom?
Came in, started on the withers, and then she went straight down to his leg. Because that's where my mind went to. It's like, did he ask her? Is this what I've always believed, that there is another way of communicating with horses through mind, the power of their mind? I think that they communicate in silence and not just in body language a lot. If anyone wants to know more about that, look up my book, Crossing Bridges, where I write about it. But something went on. Could it be observation? They've watched the other, the horse itching and they've come in to help. But interestingly, he's always been like this. And I've never seen them do it. But today, for some reason, they chose to help him. How did he tell them? How did they know? I don't know.
Really fascinating, and an interesting story that you saw among herd mates. How long has this group been together?
About a year and a half.
Okay. Because I was just thinking of the old gray mare. Do you remember the old gray mare when we did our retreat this year at the San Luis Obispo retreat with Return to Freedom Mustang Sanctuary? So when we were up in the hills and we were observing several of the herds that are up there.
That's where these horses are from.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was there.
There was an elderly gray mare. I don't know her exact age, but she was probably around late 20s. She had lived a good number of her years in the sanctuary, and her health was starting to decline. And the sanctuary had made the conscious choice, and I feel a good one, to allow her to live out her life and to pass there with her herd versus, bringing her down and intervening with lots of medical treatment. So she was getting thinner. She was getting older. You could see sometimes as she was walking, her balance was just a little off. And her daughter, a Palomino mare, was in like the last few weeks of her life, was staying really close to her. So was acting as a bit of a guard from the other horses, was helping her when she would go down to the water, that she wasn't getting pushed out by other groups, and was really staying close to her in that end of life. And I've been talking to several members of our community this week because I shared a story of my own horses and some of the interaction that has shifted with them, and got lots of stories of people with Mustangs particularly that had seen these more, I'm going to say, intricate social interactions or more advanced social interactions, things that aren't the norm of what people say we see in horses. And I think it's really fascinating to wonder what the difference is with horses that have been able to live and grow. We talked about this in one of our first episodes about the weaning process. Live and grow in this group dynamic with more of a natural social dynamic, and they get to learn these more subtle ways of communication with other horses. That a horse that is weaned early, pulled out, kept it stabled, they don't have that same experience, and then it makes sense that the behavior of those individuals is going to be different as adults.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And actually there's scientific evidence that backs that up in Dr. Stephen Peters, whose equine brain clinic we went to, and they said, horses that are not having to go out and solve problems, i.e. not feral horses, that if they are kept a little more in isolation, their cognitive behavior will shrink. So do they see? And I wonder, horses are sentient beings. They're very emotional. They can be very emotional, but just like humans, you have extremes of that. And I think horses are the same. I've seen a lot of mares, the ones that I would sort of call the linchpin in a herd, when someone new comes in and they'll protect the rest of the herd. And I think there's those innate behaviors of like protecting your own herd from a new horse that's coming in. But I've seen another example of where a horse directly came and helped a horse, and I can't exactly remember at this moment where this was, but a horse had cut itself quite badly and was needed to be stitched in the field. It was an emergency situation. And one of the herd mates came over and pushed his chin down onto the withers of the horse. And that taught me, horses are always teaching me things. When there is a horse in stress, I will push now down onto the withers, because I watched a horse do it, and this horse went completely calm, and this horse was able to help support and hold the horse in place while he was stitched in an emergency situation.
Wow.
It's like, what led him to go and do that? And can all horses do it? There's so many questions that we may take a long time to answer, years and years and years of more observation, but it's interesting. I'd love to hear if anyone's had any experiences of seeing this with horses.
Yes, and that is our question for you this week. So put it in the comments below. We would love to hear your stories, what you've seen and observed. And we will put a link in our show notes from this episode to Andrea's book, Crossing Bridges.
Mm.
Amazing story of communication, of Andrea, what you've experienced in communication that's possible between us and horses that goes beyond what we teach as trainers. It's really special. So we'll put a link to the book in there. Yeah. And we will put a link to other resources if you want to work with us more. But we look forward to seeing you next week. And if you have any questions, any topics you'd like to discuss, let us know.
We'll
See
see
you
you
back
next
next
week.
week.
Bye.